I remember a couple of months ago when we were all introducing each other to our wonderful cultures. Now, think about the cultures that you're so passionate about. Imagine if your culture, due to it being different from the main dominant culture, was called a disability. Now, imagine being taught that from childhood. Welcome to deaf culture. Indeed, not being able to hear, or deaf, is defined by the American government as a disability. According to hearinghealthfoundation.org, hearing loss is one of the most common disabilities in the US, affecting 48 million Americans. And to many, it is merely a disability. 2 years ago, I too only thought of deafness as just a disability. But then I enrolled in ASL 1. I started to learn there is something called deaf culture with a capital D. I am now in my 4th semester of ASL. By attending a variety of deaf cultural events, I now appreciate the largeness of deaf culture. But more important than what I think of deaf culture is what a young child thinks about deaf culture and about themselves. I'm hoping that this speech will inspire one or more of you to use your creativity to bring cultural pride to a deaf child. One powerful way to do this is to show deaf cultural pride in children's picture books. However, up to now, most children's picture books have been more of a problem than a solution. Fortunately, there are some that offer hope. A study titled Culture or Disability, Examining Deaf Characters in Children's Book Illustrations, published in the Early Childhood Educational Journal, found that most children's picture books that include deaf characters ignore deaf culture and only shows them with a sickness that desperately needs to be fixed. It collected all known children's books with deaf characters in them and counted the number of illustrations that had cultural views of deafness versus pathological. 93% were pathological, while only 7% were cultural. One example of this pathological view of deafness is a children's book called Oliver Gets Hearing Aids. Here is a picture of Oliver being isolated. It shows him staying away from everyone with a frown. This part of the story shows him crying, while everyone else is smiling and raising their hands because he is incapable of functioning in class. Here his deafness is a nuisance to others because he turned the TV volume so loud that his siblings are very annoyed with him. Oliver has no positive memories until he gets his hearing aids. He then becomes much more popular and happier. A more positive alternative are the children's books with a correct view of deaf culture. But what is deaf culture? According to Debbie Gollison, Deaf Culture, Exploring Deaf Communities in the United States, there's this deaf culture with a strong community. Like other cultures, deaf culture draws deaf people together to form social, psychological, and language bonds. And members of the deaf community organize meetings and events to socialize with other deaf members. Locally, these meetings take place at pizza parlors, Subways, and Starbucks. At these meetings, supportive relationships are formed. These relationships strengthen the values that bond the deaf community. The members of the deaf culture also share unique and enhanced ways of communicating. They use their bodies, eyes, and facial expressions to skillfully connect with each other and their environment. Deaf kids need to know about this culture. A good way to do this is through picture books for children. According to the article by Debbie Gollison, picture books are important for multiple reasons. First of all, picture books can help children identify themselves due to them sometimes associating pictures with their own life. Pictures can also influence a young child's beliefs and values. Pictures are as equally important as text because they could provide information that is not included in the text. If a book tries to show a culture, it needs to do it correctly. A correct cultural view on deaf people would include correct ASL, deaf people interacting with each other, a rich deaf culture, positive deaf role models, deaf contributors, deaf families, deaf leaders, deaf artists, deaf schools, and deaf peers. One children's book series that does this tells the story about a young boy named Moses. In this series, Moses explores a deaf culture. He has many friends, does well in school, is well liked, and goes many interesting places, all while being happy and connected. It also shows him communicating with his friends in ASL. Although the books about Moses and a few other books do a great job in helping deaf children understand themselves and their culture, more needs to be done. Deaf children need more picture books that celebrate their culture. There's a shortage in media that introduce deaf children to deaf culture. This may be harmful to their self-esteem and development, but there is hope. You know what must be done. I hope that you will educate others on positive deaf culture in a positive way through books or TV shows or whatever your careers may take you.